Secret societies. Who are they? What do they do? Are they real, or are they the figment of overactive imaginations? Get ready to delve straight into the unmentioned world. A world where light only shines where it wants to, and where things may or may not be what you think. The first of the secret societies we're going to pull back the curtain on has several names, and each one sounds more nefarious than the last. Known primarily as Skull and Bones, this first organization also goes by the names the Order, Order 322, and the Brotherhood of Death. Skull and Bones is an undergraduate senior secret student society at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. They are the longest-running senior class society at the university and have become a cultural institution known for its influential alumni and various conspiracy theories. Skull and Bones is one of the big three societies at Yale, the other two being the Wolf's Head Society and Scroll and Key. Informally, the society is known simply as Bones, and its members are known as Initiated to the Order, Members of the Order, or Bonesmen. Skull and Bones was founded back in the year 1832 after a quarrel amongst Yale debating societies known as Brothers in Unity, the Calliopean Society, and Linonia over that season's Pi Beta Kappa Awards. It was Alphonso Taft and William Huntington Russell who co-founded the Order of the Skull and Bones. The first senior members included Taft and Russell, alongside 12 other members. The Society's assets are overseen by its alumni organization, the Russell Trust Association. This association was incorporated in the year 1856, when it was named after the Bones' co-founder. The Russell Trust Association was founded by Russell and Skull and Bones member Daniel Coit Gilman. Author Lyman Bagg gave the world its first extended description of Skull and Bones in his 1871 book 4 Years at Yale. Bagg noted that the mystery now attending its existence forms the one great enigma which college gossip never tires of discussing. Each spring, as part of Yale University's Tap Day, Skull and Bones selects new members amongst the students and has done so since 1879. The society started including women within their membership since the early 90s. Each year, 15 women and men of the junior class are selected to join the organization. Skull and Bones only chooses those that they view as campus leaders and other notable figures for its membership. Every society needs a place to gather, and the Skull and Bones Hall is known as the Tomb. How appropriate! The tomb was built in 3 phases. Its first wing was constructed in 1856, and the second wing was built in 1903. Finally, in 1912, neo-Gothic towers were added to the rear garden. In the late 90s, New Hampshire landscape architects Saucier and Flynn designed the wrought iron fence that surrounds a portion of the complex. The society owns and manages an island retreat on the St. Lawrence River, known as Deer Island. About a century ago, Deer Island was home to softball fields that were surrounded by gooseberry bushes and lavish tennis courts. Stewards catered elegant meals for the society, and catboats wait on the lake to offer them a relaxing ride. Today, the picture is nowhere near as pleasantly painted. Even though it has become a tradition for every new member to visit Deer Island, the place is a shadow of its former self. It's been described by its members as just a bunch of burned-out stone buildings. Some have gone so far as to refer to it as being anywhere from ruins to a dump. Like other Yale senior societies, for much of its history, membership in Skull and Bones was almost completely limited to white Protestant males. Even though Yale had exclusionary policies in place, which were directed at particular religions and ethnic groups, their senior societies were even more exclusionary. Occasionally, a Catholic was able to join such groups, but Jews were more often unable. Some of those who were excluded eventually entered Skull and Bones through sports. In 1969, Yale became co-educational. This prompted some other secret societies like St. Anthony Hall to transition to co-ed membership. Skull and Bones remained entirely male until 1992. The Bones class of 1971 tried to suggest women for membership, but the move was opposed by Bones alumni. Bonesmen debated this issue for decades until 1991, when 7 female members were tapped for membership in next year's class. This created a conflict with the Alumni Association, who then changed the locks on the tomb. With the hall now off limits, Bonesmen were forced to meet in the Manuscript Society building. The dissident nearly ended with a mail-in vote by members, who decided by 368 to 320 to permit women into the society. After the vote, a group of alumni led by William F. Buckley was granted a temporary restraining order to block the move. Buckley argued that a formal change in bylaws was what was needed. Other alumni, like R. Inslee Clark Jr. and John Kerry, spoke out in favor of admitting women. The dispute was covered in an editorial page of the New York Times. In October 1991, a second alumni vote agreed to accept the class of 1992, and the lawsuit was dropped. Chief Research Archivist at the Yale University Library, Judith Ann Schiff, once wrote, "The names of its members weren't kept secret. This was an innovation of the 1970s, but its meetings and practices were." In 1985, an anonymous source leaked Skull and Bones rosters to writer Anthony C. Sutton. Membership information was kept privately for more than 15 years, and Sutton was afraid that the photocopied pages may identify the member who leaked the information. Sutton wrote a book on the group entitled America's Secret Establishment: An Introduction to the Order of Skull and Bones. The data was reformatted as an appendix in the 2003 book Fleshing Out Skull and Bones, a compilation edited by Chris Milligan. Skull and Bones were home to many prominent figures, such as former President William Howard Taft, former presidents and father and son George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush, former United States Secretary of State and former United States Senator John Kerry, Morgan Stanley co-founder Harold Stanley, and FedEx founder Frederick W. Smith are all said to have been members. In the 2004 United States presidential election, both the Republican and Democratic nominees were alumni of Skull and Bones. George W. Bush wrote in his autobiography, "In my senior year, I joined Skull and Bones, a secret society, so secret I can't say anything more." When asked what it meant that he and Bush were both Bonesmen, former presidential candidate John Kerry said not much, because it's a secret. There are many mysterious things about Skull and Bones. For instance, the number 322 appears on their insignia. It is widely believed to be significant as the year of Greek orator Demosthenes' death. According to a letter between early society members in Yale's archives, 322 is a reference to the year 322 BC, and that members measure dates from this year instead of from the Common Era. That was the year that the Lamian War ended with the death of Demosthenes, and Athenians were made to dissolve their government and establish a plutocratic system in its stead. In this new society, only those possessing 2,000 drachmas or more could remain citizens. Documents in the tomb have been found dated to Anno Demostheni. It suggests that members measure the time of day according to a clock 5 minutes out of sync with standard time. This has become known throughout the Skull and Bones as barbarian time. Another legend suggests that the numbers in the Skull and Bones emblem represent founded in 32 Second Corps, in reference to the first corps in an unknown German university. Members of Skull and Bones are given nicknames such as Long Devil for the tallest member. The majority of the chosen names are taken from literature like Hamlet, Uncle Remus, myth and religion. The society has a reputation for stealing keepsakes from other campus buildings and other Yale societies. Members refer to this practice as crooking and continuously try to outdo each other's crooks. Over the years, Skull and Bones has been accused of crooking some genuine oddities, like the stolen skulls of Pancho Villa, Martin Van Buren, and Geronimo. Rumours abound about the club. It has been featured in movies and books that claim that it plays a role in a global conspiracy for world dominance. Skull and Bones are rumoured to be a branch of the Illuminati, and some say that they may even control the Central Intelligence Agency. No one outside of the group knows the truth, and they are not talking to anyone. Our next group is so elite that they even have that word in their moniker, the Power Elite. An American sociologist named Charles Wright Mills used the term Power Elite to describe a small, loosely connected group of individuals who control American policymaking. This power elite is said to include intellectual, corporate, media, bureaucratic, military, and government elites who have ultimate control of the principal institutions in the United States, and whose actions and opinions influence policymakers' decisions. How does one become a member of the power elite? As the name suggests, it's all about having power. Mainly institutional power within a prominent public or private organization. A study of the United States society has suggested the demographic characteristics of this elite group. The age of a power elite member is usually about 50 years old and up. Corporate leaders are about 60 years old. Elite heads of foundations, law, education, and civic organizations aged around 62 years old. And elite government employees are about 56 years old. Men make up 80% and women account for 20% of the political realm. White Anglo-Saxons dominate in the power elite. Protestants represent about 80% of the top business leaders and about 73% of Congress members. Almost all of the leaders have a college education, with nearly half graduating with advanced degrees. About 54% of the big business leaders and 42% of the government elite graduated from just 12 prestigious universities with large endowments. The majority of top position holders in the power elite enjoy exclusive membership to at least one social club. About a third belong to a small number of especially prestigious clubs in major cities like New York, Boston, Chicago, London, and Washington, D.C. One of the most infamous gatherings of secret societies is the Bilderberg Meeting, an annual conference established back in the year 1954 to help foster dialogue between North America and Europe. The group's plan, initially to prevent another world war, is now defined as bolstering a consensus around free market Western capitalism and its interests around the globe. Participants in the Bilderberg Meeting include industry experts, political leaders, academia, and the media, numbering between 120 and 150 participants. Attendees are permitted to use any information they gather at meetings, but never say where they got it. This practice of secrecy is to encourage open debate whilst allowing attendees their privacy. It's this provision that's fueled conspiracy theories from both the right and the left in the world of politics. The first Bilderberg meeting was held in 1954 at the Hotel de Bilderberg in Oosterbeek, Netherlands, from May the 29th until May the 31st. The session was initiated by several people who were concerned about the growth of anti-Americanism in Western Europe. They proposed an international conference at which leaders from the United States and European countries would be brought together to promote Atlanticism. What's that? Atlanticism is a better understanding between the cultures of the United States and Western Europe, to foster cooperation on political, economic, and defense issues. The meeting was a great success, and as a result, the organizers decided to hold the conference annually. A permanent steering committee was put into place, and Polish scholar and international political activist Józef Hieronym Rettinger was appointed permanent secretary. The steering committee also maintained a register of attendees' names and contact details to create an informal network of individuals who could call upon one another in a private capacity. Over the following 3 years, conferences were held in Denmark, France, and Germany. In 1957, the first United States conference took place on St. Simon's Island, Georgia, with $30,000 contributed by the Ford Foundation. Ford also supplied funding for the 1959 and 1963 Bilderberg meetings. The Bilderberg Group has been criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability. The undisclosed nature of the proceedings and all of the secrecy surrounding them has sparked many conspiracy theories in the political arena. Some of the left accuse the Bilderberg Group of conspiring to impose capitalist domination. In contrast, some on the right have accused the group of conspiring to impose a world government and planned economy. In 2005, Bilderberg chairman Viscount d'Avignon talked about the accusations of the group striving for a one-world government with the BBC. D'Avignon stated, "It is unavoidable and it doesn't matter. There will always be people who believe in conspiracies, but things happen in a much more incoherent fashion. When people say this is a secret government of the world, I say that if we were a secret government of the world, we should be bloody ashamed of ourselves." In 1996, Mike Peters of Leeds Metropolitan University wrote one of the most concise academic papers critical of Bilderberg's deep state role in influencing geopolitical events out of the public spotlight. Entitled The Bilderberg Group and the Project for European Unification, Peters expresses astounding disbelief that few academics have examined the Bilderberg Group's international financial and political lobbying clout. Peters' paper takes a look at the links between the post-war effort for a united Europe and specific individuals who are connected with the Bilderberg Group. Investigative journalist Chip Burlett argued in his 1994 report Right Who's Left, published by the Political Research Associates, that right-wing populist conspiracy theories about the Bilderberg Group date back as early as 1964. According to Burlett, many of these conspiracy theories can be found in Phyllis Schlafly's self-published book, A Choice, Not an Echo. Schlafly's book promoted a conspiracy theory in which the Republican Party was secretly controlled by elite intellectuals dominated by members of the Bilderberg Group. Their internationalist policies would pave the way for world communism. In August 2010, Daniel Estelin's 2006 book, The Secrets of the Bilderberg Club, was cited by former Cuban President Fidel Castro when he wrote a controversial article for the Cuban Communist Party newspaper, Granma. In his article, Castro describes sinister cliques and the Bilderberg lobbyists who were manipulating the public to install a world government that knows no borders and is not accountable to anyone but its own self. Advocates of Bilderberg conspiracy theories in the United States include individuals and groups such as the John Birch Society, writer Jim Tucker, political activist Phyllis Schlafly, conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, political activist Lyndon LaRouche, and politician Jesse Ventura, who made the Bilderberg Group a topic of a 2009 episode of his True TV series, Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. Non-American proponents include British politician Nigel Farage and Lithuanian writer Daniel Estelin. Concerns about lobbying continue to rise. Author Ian N. Richardson sees the Bilderberg Group as the transnational power elite, an integral and to some extent critical part of the existing system of global governance that is not acting in the interests of the whole. We may never know what the Bilderberg Group is really about. One thing is for sure, its membership is not talking. Another group that has managed to capture the imaginations of the world for their secretive ways are the Freemasons. Freemasonry has long been the subject of many conspiracy theories over the years. Freemasonry or Masonry is made up of fraternal organizations that trace their origins to the local fraternities of stonemasons, that regulated the qualifications of stonemasons, and their interaction with authorities and clients during the 14th century. Modern Freemasonry primarily consists of two main recognition groups. Regular Freemasonry insists that a volume of scripture be open in a working lodge, that every member professes belief in a supreme being, that no women be admitted, and that the discussion of religion and politics be banned. Continental Freemasonry is now the general term for the jurisdictions which have removed some or all of these restrictions. The primary local organizational unit of Freemasonry is the Lodge. Private lodges are normally supervised at the regional level by a Grand Orient or Grand Lodge. There is no international worldwide Grand Lodge that manages all of Freemasonry. Each Grand Lodge is independent, and they do not necessarily recognize each other as being legitimate. The degrees of Freemasonry retain the 3 grades of medieval craft guilds, those of apprentice, journeyman, and master mason. The candidate of these 3 degrees is progressively taught the meanings of the symbols of Freemasonry, seemed very attractive to people, and that's why the Freemasons flourished in popularity. German professor J.G. Buhler made this very same argument in 1803. The first Grand Lodge, the Grand Lodge of London and Westminster, later called the Grand Lodge of England, was founded on St. John's Day, June the 24th, 1717, when 4 existing London lodges met for a joint dinner. Many English lodges joined the new regulatory body, which itself entered a period of self-publicity and expansion. However, many lodges couldn't endorse the changes that some lodges of the Grand Lodge of England made to this ritual. As a result, these lodges formed a rival Grand Lodge on July the 17th, 1751. It was called the Ancient Grand Lodge of England. These 2 Grand Lodges battled for supremacy until the moderns promised to return to the ancient ritual. On December the 27th, 1813, they came together to form the United Grand Lodge of England. The Grand Lodge of Ireland and the Grand Lodge of Scotland were formed in 1725 and 1736 respectively. They were unsuccessful in persuading existing lodges in their countries to join for a very long time. Freemasonry began to spread to the Western world. The earliest known American lodges were in Pennsylvania. The collector for the port of Pennsylvania, John Moore, wrote of attending lodges there in the year 1715, 2 years before the reputed creation of London's first Grand Lodge. The Premier Grand Lodge of England appointed a provincial Grand Master for North America in the year 1731 based in Pennsylvania. This led to the formation of the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. In Canada, Nova Scotia Council member Erasmus James Phillips became a Freemason whilst working on a commission to resolve boundaries in New England. During the year 1739, he became the Provincial Grand Master for Nova Scotia and went on to form Canada's first Masonic Lodge in Annapolis Royal, Nova Scotia. Other lodges in the colony of Pennsylvania received authorizations from the Grand Lodge of Scotland, the Grand Lodge of Ireland, and Ancient Grand Lodge of England, which was well represented in the British Army's travelling lodges. Many lodges began life without a warrant from any Grand Lodge. They would apply and pay for their authorization only after being confident of their survival. Following the American Revolution, independent United States Grand Lodges began popping up in each state. Some thought was given briefly to organizing a Grand Lodge of the United States. Virginian Lodge George Washington would have served as the first Grand Master, but the idea was short-lived. The various state Grand Lodges didn't want to diminish their authority by agreeing to such a body. Was there any racial divide within the Freemason Society? Prince Hall was a leader and an abolitionist in Boston's free black community. He went on to found Prince Hall Freemasonry on September the 29th, 1784. The United Grand Lodge of England had no problem recognizing the Prince Hall Grand Lodges. However, due to widespread racial segregation of 19th and early 20th century North America, it was difficult for African Americans to join lodges outside of Prince Hall jurisdictions. It was also impossible for inter-jurisdiction recognition between the parallel United States Masonic authorities. These discriminations became a thing of the past in the 1980s. Today, most of the United States Grand Lodges recognize their Prince Hall counterparts, and the bodies of both traditions are currently working towards full recognition. Whilst celebrating their heritage as lodges of Black Americans, Prince Hall is open to all men regardless of race or religion. What about women? Could they join the Freemasons? The answer to this is complicated. The status of women in corporations and the old guilds of medieval Masons remains a bit of a mystery. The principle of femme sole allowed widows to continue the trade of their former husbands. The law of femme sole varied locally, such as limited business by deputations or approved members of that body or full membership of a trade body. In Masonry, there's little available evidence that points to the less empowered end of the scale. During the 1720s, at the dawn of the Grand Lodge era, James Anderson composed the first printed constitutions for Freemasons. They became the basis for most subsequent structures, and they specifically excluded women from Freemasonry. As Freemasonry began spreading, Continental Masons started to include women in what were known as lodges of adoption, which worked 3 degrees with the same names as the men's but with different content. The French officially abandoned the experiment in the early 19th century. Later, organizations with a similar aim emerged in the United States but distinguished the names of the degrees from those of male masonry. A woman named Maria de Erasmus was initiated into Freemasonry in the year 1882, then resigned so her lodge could rejoin the Grand Lodge. Having failed to achieve acceptance from any Masonic governing body, she and Freemason George Martin founded the first mixed-sex lodge in the year 1893. It was known as the Grande Loge Symbolique Écossaise, Le Droit Humain. British socialist, theosophist, women's rights activist, writer, orator, educationist and philanthropist Annie Besant spread this phenomenon throughout the English-speaking world. Disagreements over ritual led to the formation of exclusively female bodies of Freemasons in England. These female-specific lodges quickly spread to other countries. Meanwhile, the French had reinvented adoption as an all-female lodge in the year 1901, only to cast it aside again in the year 1935. Still, the lodges continued to meet, and by the year 1959, there was a body of women who were practicing continental Freemasonry. In general, continental Freemasonry is sympathetic to Freemasonry amongst women. From the 1890s, when French lodges assisted the emergent co-Masonic movement by promoting enough of their members to the 33rd degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite to allow them in 1899 to form their Grand Council, recognised by the other continental Grand Councils of that Rite. The United Grand Lodge of England made a statement in the year 1999, which identified the 2 women's Grand Lodges to be regular in all but the participants. Whilst they weren't recognised as regular, they were part of Freemasonry in general. The attitude of nearly all regular Anglo-American Grand Lodges remains that women Freemasons are not legitimate Masons. What about transgender men or women? In the year 2018, guidance was released by the United Grand Lodge of England concerning transgender women. It stated that a Freemason who after initiation ceases to be a man does not cease to be a Freemason. The guidance also says that transgender men are free to apply to become Freemasons. Not everyone thought Freemasonry was a good thing. Anti-Masonry, also known as anti-Freemasonry, has been defined as opposition to Freemasonry, but there is no anti-Masonic movement with a single set of beliefs. Anti-Masonry is made up of widely differing criticisms from different and frequently incompatible groups who are averse to Freemasonry in some way, shape or form. Critics include political groups, religious groups, and conspiracy theorists, particularly those touting the Judeo-Masonic conspiracy theory and other Masonic conspiracy theories. Certain prominent anti-Masons, like an English far-right conspiracy theorist Nesta Helen Webster, have exclusively condemned continental Masonry, whilst at the same time regarding regular Masonry as an honourable association. There have been many exposés and damning disclosures dating as far back as the 18th century. However, they frequently lack content and may be outdated for various reasons. Some are believed to be outright hoaxes on the part of the author. These hoaxes and exposés have often become the basis for the criticism of Masonry. They are usually religious or political, or based on suspicion of corrupt conspiracy of some form or another. It was political opposition that sprang up after the American Morgan Affair of 1826, a point in time where the influence of Freemasonry in government was greatly diminished, which gave rise to the term anti-Masonry. The name is still used in America today as a self-descriptor by the critics themselves and Masons referring to their critics. Freemasonry has attracted criticism from organized religions and theocratic states because of its supposed competition with religion or alleged deviation from accepted or orthodox standards or beliefs within the fraternity itself. It has long been the target of conspiracy theories, which tout Freemasonry to be an evil or occult power. Although members of various faiths have voiced their objections, certain Christian denominations have maintained high-profile negative attitudes to Masonry, going so far as to ban members should they become Freemasons. The Catholic Church is the denomination with the farthest-reaching history of objection to Freemasonry. They base their objections on the allegation that Masonry teaches a naturalistic, deistic religion that comes in conflict with church doctrine. Many papal pronouncements have been issued against Freemasonry. The first was Pope Clement XII's In Eminenti Apostolatus on April 28, 1738. And the most recent was Pope Leo XIII's Ab Apostolici on October 15, 1890. The 1917 Code of Canon Law explicitly declared that joining Freemasonry would result in the banning of books in favor of Freemasonry, along with automatic excommunication. In the year 1983, the Church issued a new Code of Canon Law. Unlike its predecessor, the 1983 Code of Canon Law didn't explicitly name Masonic orders amongst the secret societies it condemns. It states, a person who joins an association which plots against the Church is to be punished with a just penalty. One who promotes or takes office in such an association is to be punished with an interdict. This named omission of Masonic orders caused both Catholics and Freemasons to believe that the ban on Catholics becoming Freemasons may have been lifted, especially after the perceived liberalization of Vatican II. The matter was later clarified when Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, who became known as Pope Benedict XVI, as the prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, issued a declaration on Masonic associations which states, "The Church's negative judgment in regard to Masonic association remains unchanged, since their principles have always been considered irreconcilable with the doctrine of the Church, and therefore membership in them remains forbidden." on which the Free Methodist Church was founded. Many bishops of the Church of England have been Freemasons since the founding of Freemasonry. In the past, few members of the Church of England would have seen any discrepancy in simultaneously adhering to Anglican Christianity and practicing Freemasonry. However, in recent decades, reservations about Freemasonry have increased within Anglicanism. This may be due to the increasing stature of the Church's evangelical wing. Dr. Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, appeared to have some reservations regarding Masonic ritual, whilst being anxious to avoid offending Freemasons inside and outside the Church of England. In the year 2003, he felt it necessary to apologise to British Freemasons after saying that their beliefs were incompatible with Christianity and that he had barred the appointment of Freemasons to senior posts in his diocese whilst serving as Bishop of Monmouth. In the year 1933, the Orthodox Church of Greece officially declared that being a Freemason is just like a renunciation of a religious belief. Until he repents, any people involved with Freemasonry will be unable to partake of the Holy Eucharist. This belief has been affirmed throughout the entirety of the Eastern Orthodox Church. The Orthodox critique of Freemasonry agrees with both the Protestant and Catholic versions. That is, Freemasonry cannot be at all compatible with Christianity as far as it is a secret organization, acting and teaching in mystery in secret and deifying rationalism. Regular Freemasonry has traditionally not responded to these claims, beyond the frequently repeated statement that those Grand Lodges in solidarity with the United Grand Lodge of England explicitly adhere to the principle that Freemasonry is not a religion, nor a substitute for religion. There is no separate Masonic deity, and there is no separate proper name for a deity in Freemasonry. Christian men who were discouraged from becoming Freemasons by their churches, and those who wanted a more religious society, joined similar fraternal organizations like the Loyal Orange Institution for Protestant Christians or the Knights of Columbus for Catholic Christians. However, these fraternal organizations have been organized in part on the style of and use many symbols of Freemasonry. Many Islamic anti-Masonic arguments are closely tied to both anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. However, other criticisms are made, like linking the practice of Freemasonry to the false messiah in Islamic scripture, al-Masih ad-Dajjal. Some Muslim anti-Masons argue that Freemasonry promotes that aim to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque as a means to rebuild the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem and bolster the interests of the Jews all over the world. In Article 28 of its covenant, Hamas says that Rotary, Freemasonry and other groups with shared beliefs work in the interest of Zionism and according to its instructions. A lot of countries with majority Muslim populations don't allow Masonic establishments within their borders. However, countries like Turkey and Morocco have established Grand Lodges, whilst in Lebanon and Malaysia, district Grand Lodges are functioning under a warrant from an established Grand Lodge. In Pakistan during the 70s, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, then the Prime Minister of Pakistan, placed a ban on Freemasonry. The government confiscated lodge buildings. Masonic lodges existed in Iraq as early as 1917, when the first lodge under the United Grand Lodge of England opened. 9 lodges under the United Grand Lodge of England existed by the 50s, and a Scottish lodge was formed in the year 1923. However, the position changed following the revolution, and all lodges were forced to close in the year 1965. Former Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein later reinforced this position. The death penalty was prescribed for those who promote or acclaim Zionist principles, including Freemasonry, or who associate themselves with Zionist organizations. In the year 1799, English Freemasonry almost came to a dead stop because of the Parliamentary Proclamation. In the wake of the French Revolution, the Unlawful Societies Act banned any meetings of groups that required their members to take on an obligation or an oath. The Grand Masters of both the ancient and modern Grand Lodges called upon non-Freemason Prime Minister William Pitt to explain to him that Freemasonry was a supporter of lawfully constituted authority and the law. They also made him aware of all of the charitable work that the group has done. As a result, Freemasonry was specifically exempted from the terms of the Act, provided that each private lodge's secretary placed with the local clerk of the peace a list of the members of his lodge once a year. This continued until 1967, when Parliament rescinded the obligation of the provision. Freemasonry in the United States faced political pressure following the 1826 kidnapping of William Morgan by Freemasons and his subsequent disappearance. Reports of the Morgan affair, together with opposition to prominent Mason, Andrew Jackson's Jacksonian Democracy helped spark an anti-Masonic movement. The short-lived anti-Masonic party was formed, which fielded candidates for the presidential elections of 1828 and 1832. In Italy, Freemasonry is linked to a scandal concerning the Propaganda Jew Lodge, also known as P2. The Grande Oriente d'Italia chartered this lodge in 1877 as a lodge for visiting Masons who were unable to attend their main lodges. Under the influence of Italian financier and fascist Licio Gelli's leadership in the late 1970s, P2 became involved in the financial scandals that nearly bankrupted the Vatican Bank. However, by this time, the lodge was operating independently and irregularly, as the Grand Orient revoked its charter and expelled Gelli in 1976. tasks, which meant the creation of anti-Semitic and anti-Masonic propaganda. Whilst the number of victims is not accurately known, historians estimate that between 80,000 and 200,000 Freemasons were put to death under the Nazi regime. Masonic concentration camp inmates were classified as political prisoners and wore an inverted red triangle. Hitler believed Freemasons had succumbed to Jews conspiring against Germany. The small blue forget-me-not flower was first used as a Masonic emblem by the Grand Lodge zur Sonne in 1926 at the annual convention in Bremen, Germany. In 1938, a forget-me-not badge made by the same factory as the Masonic badge was chosen for the annual Nazi party Winterhilfswerk, the annual charity drive of the National Socialist People's Welfare, the welfare branch of the Nazi Party. This coincidence enabled Freemasons to wear the forget-me-not badge as a secret sign of membership. After the Second World War, the forget-me-not flower was used again as a Masonic emblem at the first annual convention of the United Grand Lodges of Germany in 1948. The badge is now worn in the coat lapel by Freemasons around the world to remember all who suffered in the name of Freemasonry